Mama, please let me back inside.
Freddie in his last days was like, okay guys, I'm not going to be here long, just give me stuff to sing. I'll sing, you know, write me stuff in the back of a cigarette packet, whatever, just give me stuff to sing.
Brian May once said something that still sends a shiver through Queen fans. He asked me for one more song, just one more. He wasn't talking about a tour or an album or a comeback. He was talking about Freddie Mercury's final vocal request. A moment locked inside a small studio overlooking Lake Geneva, where Freddie walked in knowing he didn't have much time left, and yet still asked for one last mountain to climb. What followed wasn't just a recording. It wasn't even just a farewell, it was a confession, delivered in pieces, in pain, and in a voice that refused to break even as his body did. The world thinks Freddie Mercury's last message was the line, "I still love you." But that was his last public line. His real final message, the one he recorded with trembling hands, dim lights, and Brian May watching in silent disbelief, was hidden inside a song most people barely noticed when it first appeared. A song Freddie never finished. A verse he never returned to record. A final moment that still haunts Brian to this day. And it all began far from the spotlight. Montreux was supposed to be an escape. Quiet, peaceful, anonymous. Freddie chose it carefully. In London, paparazzi camped outside his door. In Montreux, he was just another figure walking along Lake Geneva, wrapped in scarves and sunglasses even at night, clinging to privacy like oxygen. Locals still describe glimpses of him, walking slowly along the water, holding onto railings, avoiding eye contact but greeting people softly when recognized. He was shrinking physically, but emotionally, Freddie was more determined than ever. Inside Mountain Studios, Queen maintained a pact of silence. No one spoke publicly about Freddie's condition. They protected him fiercely. Interviews were dodged, rumors dismissed, appearances canceled. Freddie didn't want sympathy. He wanted music. The studio became a sanctuary. Thick walls, dim lights, the hum of equipment. A place where Freddie didn't have to pretend. He could just create. Yet even there, the atmosphere was heavy. Everyone felt it. Freddie's energy came in waves. One moment joking, the next exhausted. Roger and John visited when needed. But it was clear, this era belonged to Freddie and Brian, because Freddie had one request, one urgent mission, and only Brian could help him, a mission that would become his last. But Freddie didn't reveal that at first. He simply said, "Brian, write me stuff." And everything changed. The way Brian tells it, Freddie didn't ease into the conversation. He didn't sugarcoat it. He walked into the rehearsal room, drained but intense, and told him, "Write me stuff. I know I don't have long. Keep writing me words. Keep giving me things I will sing." Those words hit Brian harder than any diagnosis. Freddie wasn't asking for comfort. He wasn't asking for rest. He was asking for purpose. He wanted to leave something behind. Something honest. Something raw. Something that reflected the man behind the legend. Brian later revealed that Freddie said, "Then you can do what you like with it afterwards. Finish it off." It was as if Freddie was preparing his own musical will. From that moment on, the process became frantic. Brian scribbled lyrics on scraps of paper, napkins, envelopes, and anything within reach. Freddie would read a line, mark it, hum a melody, then head straight into the booth. He was racing time, and he knew it. Freddie sang each line 3 times, pushing through pain with a stubbornness only he possessed. Not to perfect the sound, but to give the band options. It was his way of saying, "You'll have everything you need when I'm gone." Those close to the band say Freddie looked different during these sessions. Distant, determined, and strangely serene. Almost as if he knew exactly what mother love would become. But the real emotional storm was still ahead. Freddie walked into Mountain Studios on May 13th, 1991, ready to work. It was the start of 3 days that Brian May would later call some of the most powerful and painful moments of his life. Freddie was noticeably weak. He needed breaks every few minutes. Sometimes he sat between takes, his breathing shallow, hands trembling. But the moment he stepped into the vocal booth, he transformed. He stood tall, adjusted the headphones, and delivered vocals that didn't just sound strong, they sounded immortal. On the first day, Freddie recorded the opening lines of Mother Love. Brian watched through the glass panel stunned. The voice coming through the speakers didn't match the fragile figure in front of him. It was bold, desperate, emotional. Like a man pouring everything left inside him into one final vessel. Fans later said the first verse sounds like resignation, while the second sounds like revelation, as if Freddie was telling two truths at once. By the second day, there was a shift. Freddie seemed tired but also strangely peaceful. He recorded the chorus with tears in his eyes, or maybe it was pain. Brian has never clarified. He only said he was giving so much more than he could afford to give. By the third day, Freddie had recorded almost everything. Almost. Because when it came time to record the final verse, something happened no one expected. Listeners often say Mother Love feels different from every other Queen song. And that's because it is. It's the only track Freddie recorded while fully aware he would never sing live again, never tour again, never step onto a stage with Queen again. Every line is loaded with a weight he could barely speak aloud. The opening verse is almost confessional. I'm a man of the world, and they say that I am strong, but my heart is heavy, and my hope is gone. This wasn't theatrical, Freddie. This was the man behind the crown, admitting something he had spent a lifetime hiding: fear. Fans debate who the mother in the title really represents. Some believe it's his real mother. Others say it's Mary Austin. Others think it's the world, the people who embraced him unconditionally. And some swear it's metaphoric. Mother love as safety, rest, release. Then comes the line that still chills listeners. I don't want to sleep with you, that's all you seem to think about. It's raw, stripped of glamour, a reflection of the loneliness that fame brings, and the vulnerability Freddie hid behind humor for years. Freddie wasn't singing to an audience. He was singing to himself, or maybe to the version of himself he knew he was about to leave behind. And the deeper he went into the song's meaning, the more the emotional cost began to show. What happened next would become the most heartbreaking moment in Queen's recording history. May 16th, 1991. The last day Freddie Mercury ever set foot inside Mountain Studios. Brian handed him the final verse of Mother Love. Freddie read it silently, nodded, and stepped into the booth. Everyone in the room sensed the importance of the moment. They didn't know it would be the last, but they felt the air change. Tense, heavy, almost sacred. Freddie positioned the mic, closed his eyes, raised his chin, and tried. He sang a line, then stopped. Tried again, stopped. His voice wasn't the problem. The emotion was. Finally, he stepped back from the mic, looked at Brian, and said the sentence that would haunt him forever. I'm not up to this. I need to go away and have a rest. I'll come back and finish it. Freddie Mercury never returned to the studio again. Brian later admitted he always believed Freddie could finish the song, because Freddie always did the impossible. But this time, the band felt something shift. It was as if Freddie knew this was the line he couldn't cross, that singing those final words would make the truth impossible to deny. Fans have long speculated that Freddie recorded more vocals privately at home, in whispered fragments. No tapes have ever surfaced, but rumors persist, especially among those who swear they heard Brian hint about private demos we'll never release. Whatever the truth, history is clear on one thing. Freddie Mercury's last sung words in a studio. End right here. Once it became clear Freddie wasn't coming back, Queen faced an impossible challenge. How do you finish the last song of a man who will never sing again? They tried everything: unused takes, alternative harmonies, studio scraps Freddie recorded just in case, but nothing fit the final verse. So Brian made a decision almost no fan expected. He would sing it himself. The result is one of the most emotional moments in Queen's entire catalog. His voice cracks, it strains, it carries grief the way Freddie carried power. Brian didn't try to imitate Freddie. He sang the way a friend sings when grieving, with honesty, with pain, with love. Roger Taylor later said completing Mother Love felt like closing a chapter the band wasn't ready to end. Then came the montage. To honor Freddie's legacy, the band created a sonic tapestry at the end of the song, a super-sped collage of nearly every Queen track recorded up to that moment. Buried inside it is Freddie's old Larry Lurex cover of Goin' Back from 1972, a symbolic return to his very first steps as a recording artist. Finally, the babies cry. Not Freddie, not a metaphor for his passing, but a symbol of the beginning and end merging together. A life cycle. Freddie's musical journey in one last breath. And with the song complete, Queen had to face one final mystery. What were Freddie Mercury's true last words? People often ask, what were Freddie Mercury's final words? But the truth is, it depends on who tells the story. Mary Austin, Freddie's greatest confidant, said his last words to her were quietly spoken as they watched footage of his final performance. "To think I used to be so handsome." A strange, heartbreaking line, one that revealed how deeply he felt his physical decline. Mary was so shaken that she left the room and never got the chance to hear anything else he might have said. Elton John tells a different story. In his memoir, he revealed Freddie prepared a Christmas gift long before passing, a painting and a card that read, "Dear Sharon, I thought you'd like this. Love, Melina." These were their drag nicknames for each other, like a playful, intimate, full of affection. If written words count, that note might be Freddie's true final message. Then there's his last public line, "Thank you. Good night," said at the 1990 Brit Awards, the last time his voice echoed for the world. But one more person claims something even more personal. His assistant Peter Freestone says Freddie's final spoken words to him were simple: "Thank you. Gratitude, even at the end." In the final days of November 1991, Garden Lodge was silent. Curtains drawn, lights dim, only a small circle of people were allowed inside. Mary Austin, Jim Hutton, Peter Freestone, and Dave Clark. Freddie had stopped his treatments, not because he wanted to quit, but because the constant attention from paparazzi had become unbearable. For a man who lived loudly, he wanted to leave quietly. Friends say Freddie spent his final hours surrounded by soft music, his beloved cats nearby, and Mary brushing his hair away from his forehead. He drifted in and out of consciousness, but he wasn't afraid. He seemed prepared. Dave Clark, who sat at his bedside as Freddie took his last breath, described the moment as peaceful, a gentle slipping away. Rumors persist about whispered words in those final hours, things only those present will ever truly know. Some say he mumbled apologies. Others think he asked if the windows could remain open. But no confirmed final line exists. What is certain is this: Freddie Mercury passed away on November 24th, 1991, surrounded by love, not cameras. And somewhere in that quiet room, Mother Love lingered, the last song he would ever attempt to finish. For Brian May, Mother Love isn't just a song. It's a wound that never fully healed. Years later, during a documentary interview, Brian admitted something haunting. He said he still struggles to listen to Freddie's vocal takes from those final sessions. Not because they're painful musically, but because they take him back to a moment he wishes he could rewrite. Brian remembers how Freddie pushed himself that week, shaking, sweating, exhausted, yet still determined to give his best. The contrast between Freddie's frail appearance and the sheer power of his voice was almost surreal. And then came the part Brian never forgot. Freddie saying, "I'll finish it tomorrow." Brian believed him. Freddie had always come back. He had always delivered the impossible, but this time, tomorrow never arrived. Finishing the song without Freddie was torture for Brian. Singing the last verse wasn't a tribute. It was grief. Pure, raw grief captured on tape. He says that when he recorded his vocals, he wasn't performing, he was mourning. And in his mind, Mother Love became the sound of goodbye, the last echo of a friend he wasn't ready to lose. More than 30 years later, Mother Love remains Freddie Mercury's final gift, a song built from courage, honesty, and the refusal to bow to fear. It's not a song about death. It's a song about longing, about wanting rest after a lifetime of giving everything. When listeners hear Freddie's voice crack or soften or rise with impossible strength, they're hearing a man who knew the world would listen long after he was gone. And in a way, that's the greatest final message he could have left. That art outlives pain, that love outlasts loss, and that the show, somehow, must go on. Brian May still says he feels Freddie around him when this song plays. Fans around the world feel it too. Because Freddie Mercury didn't just leave a legacy, he left a voice that refuses to fade. If this story moved you, if Freddie's courage means something to you, take a moment to honor him. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which Freddie moment changed you the most. His last vocal may belong to the past, but Freddie Mercury's voice still sings in every one of us.